Greetings.
All right. I think we're fixed. Man, that was stupid. Okay. Now we got it going on. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? That's the hope. Let's see if the live is living now. That was really weird. I'm watching it with a slight delay. All right, the audio is working everywhere else. Hallelujah. We are back in business. Don't really know why that was doing what it was doing, but whatever the tinkering was done seems to have fixed it. Okay, we're back in action. I can reintroduce myself. We can make that happen. My name is Shapiro. I'm a former police officer who talks about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. And if you weren't paying attention, that sucked. I was having some technical difficulties. Okay. Just to reintroduce, and I'll give that little plug to my fine friends at Diamond and Diamond Lawyers. They are sponsors to the show, magical people who help keep the lights on. They are Canada's largest personal injury law firm. So if you need help with that kind of stuff, they are the people to call. And we thank them for supporting the show. Of course, we've got ClearGuard as sponsors and the Accountant Institute, Barrett Legal, I Finally Will. These are all companies that care about you. And that's just what it's all about. They're helping the community be safer through education, and I thank them for it. Okay, let's get into some stuff and things. I want to see what's going on. Yes, I've got confirmation, and Julie Massey says, good morning, Sean. And we've got Kayla who confirms. He says, glad to see and hear, mon ami. Yes, I assume he'd be using an accent of some kind. Go fancy with the French. All right. The Canadian trucker has joined. Welcome, welcome. We've got Lowrider who's joined. Let's see. We've got lots of folks who are jumping in. They are. Lowrider doesn't like them. He says he thinks they're ambulance chasers. You know what? I don't know what your view of ambulance chaser is. Does that mean they are out there helping people get paid? Because that's what happens. That's what they do. They help people get paid. I mean, you may have had a negative experience. I don't know. I've got nothing bad to say. Aaron says, have we talked about the pepper spray potential unban? I have, but we can talk about it again. The deal is that that they're talking about legalizing pepper spray, it's really already legal for certain purposes, but I guess it would be specifically legalized for use against humans in a self-defense situation. But it's already a weapon of opportunity because you can legally carry pepper spray in the form of dog repellent or bear repellent or coyote repellent. Like it's just labeled differently. But when it's labeled as something that suggests that it was purchased for that reason, thus you're carrying it legally and lawfully, and that's what counts. If you're carrying it for self-defense against humans, you're breaking the law, right? Like you can only carry it for use against animals. But happens to be that if you were to be attacked and then use it against a human, not because you intended to when you left the house, well then you'd be able to use it to save your life because that's you could use anything. If you had a ballpoint pen and you stuck it in his ear, that would be a weapon of opportunity. A pen becomes a weapon because of the way you use it. Anyway, that's pretty much the thing is they may at some point do this thing where they change it to be legal and explicitly legal for use against people. Vincent Zelu wants to know if I live in Florida full time now. No, I'm in Toronto. I've been back and forth because I have family there, but I don't live there. What do we got here? Mike World. Is that Mike World? Mike World. And we've got Frank the Friendly Gardener. Hello. And Nino Cat. Just scrolling through as we look for questions. Air Force One, how's it going? Just clicking some hellos back. K3 says they're driving right now, and I really hope that's a joke, although April Fool's was yesterday, and I hope you all survived with little to no, pranksters on your butt. But I had one friend who's a big time prankster who called me with something that was not okay. It was a prank that went too far, I think, but it's okay. We'll survive that. K3's an idiot. Sorry, he says, catch me if you can. I can't. I'm not a police officer anymore. Anyway, we got, and see what dash cams jumped on his rear end and says, that's not very smart. I hope the police catch you and you get the biggest ticket available. I agree. If you're openly, but I totally think he's 12 years old and sitting in his mom's basement, skipping school and watching the show and being ignorant. But anyway, what can I say? Let's see here. Okay, minding my own business, joined an automotive addiction. How you doing? Good to see you. What's this? I don't know what he's saying. It was a comment there about half-assing it, but I'm not sure what he's half-assing or who. Hockey Dad joined. Hello, Trevor. What's going on? We've got scrolling for questions. If you've got questions about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff, please drop them in the comments. Lowrider says, oh, my wife was involved in a collision. Other party was at fault and charged with careless. Okay, lowrider, what's that? Now he had, so the other part, okay. Well, they have to have so I understand now why you don't like them because they're suing your wife, even though the other person was charged with careless. Well, it all depends on whether or not they think there's an angle there. So that doesn't make them an ambulance chaser. Just because the other party was charged with careless doesn't mean that your wife wasn't contributing to the event. I don't know anything about the case. It sucks from your perspective because they were charged, and that makes it look like that your other half wasn't at fault. But it may be that your wife was at fault in some way. And again, I don't know the case, but they wouldn't be able to sue for injury or win if there wasn't a reason for it, right? So they must have something that they're working on. I have to assume that because they don't work for free. If they can't win, if they don't think there's a reason to win, they wouldn't go after you. They don't just go after you and lose. And I don't know how they work because I'm not involved with them that way. But when I was injured in a collision, the law firm took my case. It didn't take a penny out of my pocket. They took a percentage at the end based on a win. And they don't, again, take cases. They don't think they can win. Lowrider says, I will not pay a dime. Interesting. Okay. Well, listen, good luck to you. But I will tell you that if you are on the end that needs help, they are the right people to call. What's this? Bro retired the badge to go savage. Okay, let's see what's going on here. See what Dashcam says. Savage part was part-time before, now full-time. That's too funny. Okay, are driving prohibitions from other provinces enforceable in other provinces? Sure. A driving prohibition. So if you are prohibited from driving in your home province and you go drive elsewhere, you don't have a license. So if you're banned in Ontario, if you're suspended in Ontario, your license is suspended everywhere because you have an Ontario driver's license. If you are suspended in another province on your Ontario driver's license, Ontario accepts that suspension. They get notified, and you're not allowed to drive. You're not just suspended there; you're suspended everywhere. So yeah, and if there's even conditions, let's say you need to have like you're a learner's driver and you can't be on the highway. Well, if you're traveling, it's a condition on your license and it's enforceable elsewhere. I think that's what you mean, so I hope that's what you mean. And if it isn't what you meant, please let me know so I can talk about it differently from a different perspective. Matthew has a question. Hi, Sean. If you show an invalidated license, what the fine? Example, my new one starts the 7th. Okay. So you got a driver's license that's been replaced and yours is not yet valid. Well, it doesn't usually work that way, but you essentially you're showing them the wrong license. So if you're showing them the expired one, it's expired. That's not a valid license. When you get it replaced, you have a new one. And I've never seen it where they send you one early. Usually, the overlap is such that that just replaces it upon receipt, and it wouldn't really be an issue for me if you gave me the new one, but it would be an issue if you gave me the old one. Some people keep their old license and keep using that as their, they have one in the car, they have one at home. Well, you can only possess one, and that's it. But if you have more than one, and you show the wrong one, you can get a ticket for that. If you have two in your wallet, I pulled people over who had a collection. Like, look at me when I was 16. Here's the picture from when I first got licensed. Look how good I look. No, you need to have your most current one. That's the one you must surrender. If you don't, but we can still see in the system that you're licensed, you would get failed to surrender license because they didn't give the one that was valid. You gave an expired one. Let's see here. Robbie says, hello, sir. Quick question. How many vehicles can someone sell privately? Thanks for the follow, by the way. I heard the chirp. It meant somebody followed me, but I don't know who it was because I'm not looking there yet. And Aman Bala sent a rose. Thank you very much for that. But back to the question of how many vehicles can someone sell privately? I don't know. Do you mean like, can you have a car lot with 6 for sale? At what point do you become a dealer? If you buy and sell vehicles on your own because you buy one and sell it, I don't think there's any limitation as to how many, as long as you're not operating a business. At which point I think you fall under other categories. And so I can't give you an answer because it's not something I think is under the Highway Traffic Act. But you know what? I have access to this wonderful utility that can give me some answers. And let's see if we can figure this out together. Is there a restriction? And this is ChatGPT. I'm not doing anything crazy. Let's using it like a Google on how many vehicles. And the reason I'm looking at this, and yes, you could do this yourself, but I'm looking at it and then I want to double back to find if there's any law, and I'll read the law to confirm it. Don't believe what ChatGPT says. It agrees with you and says stupid stuff all the time. I find lots of issues there, but it's a great starting point for searches. An individual can sell privately. Again, something I've never really looked into. Based on HTA or another Ontario Act. If so, please cite said act. Which is interesting. Let's see. We'll come back to that once this spits out an answer, however long that takes. Lowrider says there's no angle and there's multiple witnesses. Then you should be fine. But again, I don't think they would take the case if there was no angle. There has to be a reason that they're going for it. John says, is the oversight on officers that break traffic rules? Is there? I think you meant is there. Is there oversight on officers that break traffic rules? I often see them running stop signs and speeding. Speeding is absolutely lawful for police officers. They don't have to have their lights and sirens active to do it. So there's a legal justified reason. They're exempt. They could be doing it to get to a call faster, even though you don't know what they're doing. They could be doing it for the purposes of surveillance or any other lawful reason in the, while carrying out their duties as a police officer. That's it. That's all. But when it comes to running stop signs, they're actually required to stop for stop signs, and if they're caught running stop signs, they'll be documented. I've had people or friends on the job tell me that they got nailed for 4 hours, 8 hours, or 16 hours paid, depending on how many times they've had issues, for going to a 911, like going to an officer assist or a child not breathing, and they get a little too much adrenaline and they run a stop sign. Maybe they intentionally ran the stop sign. Maybe they didn't even notice it. Either way, they were documented for it. So yes, there was absolutely oversight. And a friend of mine, I just had lunch with him last week. Actually, he's one of the officers that I know years ago had that issue, and he was running to an officer assist, and he ran a stop sign, and there was no, oh well, you were trying to help a fellow officer. No, he still got stung, and hopefully that changes your, just like tickets are there to change your behavior long term, and when you get documented internally by the police service, that's another way of saying, hey, wake up. If you want to keep paying through the nose, which is what happens, you're working for free, you just keep on doing what you're doing. uh User lots of numbers says, can you have a G1 driver have a sorry can you have a G1 driver have a passenger in the back seat? And you asked that twice in a row, but you didn't word it any better the second time. So you meant, can a G1 driver have a passenger in the back seat? Yes, but it cannot have a passenger in the front seat other than the supervising driver who has 4 years driving experience. So you have to have a full G class driver with 4 years experience supervising you. Nobody else can be in the front seat, even if you have that wonderful bench seat on many vehicles, and that's it. But backseat, there's no restrictions. Is it a good idea? Those people are taking their life in their own hands, right? It's an inexperienced driver, but it's not against the law. Tarvindran Singh says, "Stop scamming." I don't know what we're talking about, but thank you for your input. I think maybe you meant stop spamming. That could also be something, but I don't know who they'd be talking to. But we'll just take it in stride. If you're watching and you're new, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a former police officer who talks about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. So if you'd like to know stuff and things before you do stuff and things that get you tickets, then by all means, drop questions in the comments, and we'll do this out here for all to benefit with, I don't know, whatever. We're going right until 11 o'clock this morning, so there's lots of time. Jump in whenever you like. We've got here, Akela Dracona says, speaking of animals, I saw my first moose. My wife saw her first elk, and we saw a deer that failed to cross the road. Careful of wildlife on the roads. There's so much wildlife out in wonderful Ontario and, well, all of Canada, if not the whole planet. There's just lots of wildlife, and people forget that they don't follow the direction of traffic signals and such. So you often need to be paying attention, oddly enough, to the things that might cross in front of you. And I've met some people who have had a run-in. I met one gentleman years and years ago who was riding a Harley through the mountains and drove through a moose and broke every bone in his body as he did it. Yeah, he was severely injured. But he did sell me a CB radio from his Harley that managed to, I had to pick the guts out of it was terrible. But yeah, you got to be careful. Be careful out there, and the whistles that you can add to the front don't always work. Don't rely on those. What do we got here? Niall says, I have Ontario driver's license with bad history and moved to Alberta. Does it impact my insurance? Your history is your history is your history. They will look you up and they will see your history because it's a linked account. So yeah, you don't get away. You don't lose your history simply because you move. Will it impact your insurance? They're not stupid. They will do a complete look. If they give you a great deal, that's on them because they didn't do their homework. But just know that it doesn't disappear just because you move. Okay, we got Alex Martin wants to know what my thoughts are on youth services officers. I don't have an opinion. I don't even know what a youth services officer is. What is the context? Are you talking about someone who works with people in custody? Do you what is the define youth services officer for me so I understand? Okay, apparently, going back to the question about how many vehicles can you sell on your own, apparently there is the MVDA, Motor Vehicle Dealer Act of 2002, and it's my friends at OMVIC who supervise this and enforce this. I have friends of mine who are investigators, inspectors for those fine folks. But do they say specifically how many there is? So selling vehicles without registering, operating as a dealer, curbsiding, that we know is illegal. That's not a question. We knew that. Oh, But according to ChatGPT in this giant investigation that it did while we were talking about other things, it says there's no specific fixed number. Instead, enforcement looks at whether activity resembles a business, considering factors as the frequency of buying and selling vehicles for profit, advertising multiple vehicles at once, selling vehicles that were recently purchased. Yeah. So if you're buying and you're selling the car that you were driving and you were driving it for a while and you were just selling the one vehicle that you had, probably not an issue. If you're buying and selling vehicles that appears to be a business, guess what? It appears to be a business. Hey, if you're watching on TikTok, please tap the screen so your fingers go numb. It helps tell other people to come to the party. And, same thing goes for the fine folks on Instagram or any of the other platforms we're currently broadcasting on. We're on a whole bunch of them. So if you've got questions, hopefully we got the answer. And whatever we don't know, we'll look it up together and figure it out. But that's the story. And Robbie, so we got your question about how many vehicles can you sell privately. Talked about this. Can you have a G1 driver have a passenger in the back seat? We talked about that, even though it's been asked several times, same person. What is the rule with dealer plates? Can people drive with them all the time? As long as the vehicle is in the inventory and available for sale, they can use that vehicle. It's not against the rules, but it has to be an inventory. It can't be your vehicle that you're not willing to sell. It has to be in there. Seawood Dashcam says, this is what makes Sean a step above the rest. He goes out of his way to find the info you need. Well, thank you very much, Seawood Dashcams. Appreciate the props. Robbie says, let's say I buy a car and I don't like it. I keep going, doing this every 3 months. Listen, it's going to be up to the investigators. But at the end of the day, if it looks like a business, it might be a business. Have you ever heard that? If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. They can make the charge. They can charge you. And then it's up to a court to determine whether or not you're operating as a business. But if you're just keeping one car and you change it because it's like your underwear. It's like you put 5,000 kilometers on it. It's like, I don't like it anymore. There's nothing that says you can't do that. But if you're buying them for 2 and selling them for 5, you might be in the business. I'm obviously what can you buy for 2 and sell for 5? But yeah, it's the deal. If it looks like a business, they might accuse you of being in business, and it does look like it says about the common myth about 3 to 5 cars. Let's see here. Yeah, listen, they can come and investigate you. What are you going to tell them? I bought the car. I didn't like it. I bought another car. If you're buying the same car every 3 to 6 months, I don't know. Every situation. Again, talk to the people at Omvic. They'd probably be the best. Well, they would be the best source of information. But the fact that you're asking might suggest that you're, involved in a business. Otherwise, why would you be asking? Just saying. It's suspect because other people just do it, right? They buy a car, they list it, they buy a new car. Other people are trying to figure out how to avoid getting caught. Silverback 67 Darts says, so pulled over for snow covering back of truck during blizzard and driving for 4 hours. Okay. You got pulled over and you got pulled over for snow being on the back of your truck. What kind of truck? Are we talking about a big rig? Are we talking about what kind of truck? Was it snow accumulated whilst you were driving? That's unlikely. It would suggest that you were, maybe driving while or not driving while the snow accumulated. But tell me more, Silverbacks or Silverback. Not I put an S there for no reason. Let me know because and How about now? Did I like? Is this something as stupid as I just hit mute by accident? Like I don't know. Are we have audio again? Okay, I think we have audio. We have audio fixed. Yes, good. How long was it out? That's the question. Thank you again for those who've told me that it's working. This was not a test of I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if I just accidentally tapped something, but it appears that because my soundboard wasn't doing anyway. I am thankful to you for letting me know. Let me know where I was when I stopped being heard. What was I answering so I can go back and finish that and try and roll back the clock and go there because obviously I missed a few things. So I must have tapped my water bottle against the mute button because that was dumb of me. But anyway, no sound, no sound. How long ago? How long ago did I go? What was I talking about? Oh, this is great. Crap. Okay. Um, the moose always wins. We heard that. Okay. Snow on the back of the truck while driving. Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so the answer we were talking about was I don't know whether or not that was snow accumulation or while you were driving, which is unlikely that someone would charge you for that because it's totally understandable that snow is going to accumulate. But if you're traveling at any speed, it shouldn't accumulate. So were you pulled over and charged, or were you just pulled over, warned, cautioned, or otherwise? Like, listen, if you have a mountain of snow on your vehicle, but nobody has snow accumulating on their vehicle, you might be suspect for not having cleared your snow before you got on the road. So it really depends. I can't look through the crystal ball and know what actually happened on the day you were out there driving. Uh, but it's reasonable that if you're driving in slow traffic, that you could get some accumulation on the back of your vehicle. And it's not reasonable for an officer to expect you to clear the top of a big rig whilst on the highway. That's a thing. Glam 2025 sent a gift, and thank you for that. Any gifts, by the way, received go to the not-for-profit called Better Traffic. It's called the Canadian Organization for Better Traffic Safety and Education, and that's the organization I founded when I left the Toronto Police almost 2 years ago. September will be 2 years. Can you believe it? Wowzers. So, yeah, John says acts are not law. Yeah, they are. Acts are law. But I imagine, and I'm just speculating, that John is a freeman of the land and reading books from the 1800s, trying to suggest that that is modern law. Or maybe it's just fantasy that he's living in, but it ain't reality. Acts are not law. Give me a break. They're provincial law, but they're law. Okay. Moving on. Moving on. Tell me more about this, about the silverback situation, though. Okay. Raziel says, can't buy or sell more than 6 vehicles before you consider it a vehicle. Can't buy or sell more than 6 vehicles before you work. I'm not sure if that well, again, numbers don't appear to be reality, but Raziel says it's 6 vehicles before you're considered a dealer. Is that in a calendar year? Interesting. Uh, Just going to scroll back to see. I talked about the fact that the youth services officer question. I don't know what a youth services officer is, so you'll have to tell me more. Okay. No, that's what I was on. Wine Russ, who says, I love how cops are incentivized to get callers. Pretty neat incentive. What is the incentive for getting a caller? Caller is a U.S. term or a slang term for, I think it's a slang term. I don't think it's an official term for making an arrest. It's certainly not a ticket. So what are you suggesting? You catch bad guys and the incentive is what? Catching bad guys, doing your job. It's kind of a cool thing to just do your job. In any case, I'd love to know more as to what you think the deal is, because I don't think you're accurate. What's the incentive? A pat on the back? More paperwork? What's the incentive? Let's see here. They should use the deer crossing. Yes, John, absolutely. I have stopped for elk, moose, deer, small vermin, black bears, grizzly bears, and what? Yes. The moose always wins. True. Jacob Adema says, question, what is the best moment of insight karma you witnessed on the job, like road rage? I don't have an answer for that. I have to think about that. We'll come back. Youth corrections. That's what he's talking about. Youth. So I don't have experience really with, I mean, I used to work as a court officer. I used to deal with corrections. I didn't deal with youth very much. I'm not, listen, if you're looking to get into that job, talk to someone who's been in that job. I can tell you all about being a court officer, a special constable. I can tell you about being an auxiliary officer. I can tell you about being a police constable. I can't really give you an insight about corrections because they're doing a job that's tough. And I think it is a very difficult job to be a correctional officer in a youth facility because I think your hands are tied 99% of the time. And I don't know how you function in that. Fish and Freaks asks why I retired. I retired for family reasons. I needed to be more available to help family. And I couldn't do that working 10-hour shifts plus, well, it was 8-hour shifts when I left because I was on light duties plus 3 hours of driving. So you do the math. I was gone 13 hours a day and it was getting hard. And if I had to leave early, every few days to help out, it became very difficult to manage. So it made sense to leave for the time being. What do we got here? Got it. Got it. Thank you, Alex, I see now I finally hit the comment where Alex was clarifying what a youth services officer is. Okay. DB says, I work for a funeral home. We use purple and white strobes. Is this legal? I know it's being considered acceptable, whether it's actually legal or not. I don't think there's any specific, I don't think that purple is a restricted color. You can't flash technically white light to the back, and you're doing that with a 360 strobe on your roof. So technically, all purple would be better than purple and white. But I think you guys get cut a lot of slack. I just think that no one's bothered you, even though it's not specifically legal. You're also primarily doing this during the daytime, so it's not blinding people on the road. But yeah, that's the story. Is it legal though? Technically, no. Purple is not a restricted color, but it could be misconstrued as a blue red blend. If you go to if you're in the States and you see the blue red LEDs at a distance, they look purple. I don't think anyone's going to give you a hard time though. But again, it's not specifically legal or illegal. It's not, purple's just not a category color that's specifically prohibited. John says, appears to be a business, isn't the law, guys. You'll be fine. Which isn't appears to be a business, isn't the law, guys. I don't know if John's commenting on. Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry, John. If you were, I gave you a hard time because it sounded like you were a freeman of the land, but I think you're specifically talking about flipping cars. And I appreciate what you're saying. He says, appears to be a business, isn't the law. You'll be fine. Okay, I thought you were talking about acts are not law. They are law, but he's saying just go ahead and do your thing. Okay, you may have a difficult time if they charge you because they charge you with real tickets. Okay. Okay. Streetcar at stop dropping pickup passengers. Oncoming traffic lane is safe and clear. Can I pass a streetcar? So a streetcar is different than a school bus. That oncoming traffic isn't stopping it doesn't have to stop for a crosswalk. Let's rewind and try it again. Okay. A streetcar is not like a school bus in that you do not have to have oncoming traffic stop for them. There's no stop arm, no big stop sign. What you can't pass is the open doors. So you cannot pass from rear to front, in the curb lane of a streetcar roadway. Yeah. So it's about not passing the open door of a streetcar. It's got nothing to do with oncoming traffic. So yes, oncoming traffic is okay. What we got here? I find police won't pull you over in blizzard for covered back. They are covered too. Oh, I agree. Generally speaking, in a blizzard, it's not a time to pull people over for little stuff. We're too busy absolutely going after the folks who are in crashes. That's primarily what we're doing, is trying to keep people off the road, keep people safe. That's not a time to go after folks with minor issues. And yeah, we got all okay. Finally, the point where we're catching up for where we lost the audio. Okay. Silverback continues to clarify. Yes, half ton was accumulated after driving 4 hours, just got into the city, not safe to get out of clean. So So for 4 hours, that's where and it was a half ton. So it was a pickup truck. And they're saying that the bed was covered with snow. I could see that because it's behind the cab, and the cab is protected so it would reduce wind. Uh, yeah, I mean that's pretty petty. I think to go after. And if you and did they charge you or they just like what they say? Uh, yeah, I don't see that. Maybe they fixed it a little further on. But it's like yeah, even your license plate, you have to have your license plate clear of dirt and debris and snow. But if it's in a slushy, snowy environment, no one should be giving you a hard time for not stopping every 30 feet to clean your license plate. It's different if it was hard packed snow that is obviously old. Let's see here. Uh, Ryan says, I see you took former Toronto police officer out of your. Um, what do you mean? Do you mean the Toronto part? Maybe I was just trying to make it. I didn't even notice that. All right. I don't remember when if I changed that or how I had it, but yeah, just Toronto, just former police officer. I don't think it's important to make it the longest title possible. I don't know. I don't remember the thought process of when I edited that, or if I edited it, because I can't remember. Let's see here. Discretion. It must have looked like you didn't. Yeah. John, I agree with you. I think it was likely it just looked a certain way. And Robbie says, not guilty. I just love to change cars since my uncles own a dealership, but I registered mine. Okay. Fixed audio on, audio on. Yes, about 2 minutes. Okay. Got it. Cool. Okay. You were answering the got it. Okay. This is how far back we are. I'm now seeing all the new stuff. Ryan wants to know if I have any comments about the recent organized crime involving Toronto police. It's gross. If the allegations are real, if they're accurate, that's gross. And it's funny. I was just talking about this at a family dinner last night. It's if they did what is alleged to have been done, then they're guilty. Then they should be charged accordingly, what they have been, and they should be found guilty, and they should be dealt with whatever's appropriate to the courts. There should be no special treatment, and it's gross. Nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop does. Good cops wear the uniform with pride. Bad cops use the uniform as an opportunity, and that's gross. So yeah, whatever. Listen, we know that there are bad people in every area of the world. Every job has bad people who take advantage, whether it's doctors, lawyers, accountants. There are people who are willing to do unscrupulous things for personal benefit. We do a lot of work to try and prevent those people from getting into the industry altogether. So when you apply to become a police officer, not only do you have to apply and have a good background, show that you had educational requirements met, and that you were continuously working, and that you made contributions to your community. But then you have to do a background check, and then you go knock on the doors of your neighbors. Like, was little Bobby a good boy? did you hear loud parties? Was he doing drag racing up and down the street? Like, they want to know everything about you, and they go to great lengths to figure that out. Home visits, all these things happen, and then there's a psychological test, and there's an MMPI, which is I think it's 500 questions. And those 500 questions are to see if there's any deceit. And then there's an additional review to figure out what you're hiding, right? And then they have an actual interview with a psychologist or a psychologist, a doctor person thing. And they figure out if you're up for the job. And they go to great lengths to avoid having bad apples in there. But does it mean that you get all people? No, people slip through. And some people come in good and something happens. This is why having a good credit history is important, because someone who pays their bills and doesn't have a giant amount of debt makes them less susceptible to bribery. Someone's has big debts or a problem, they might be seen as an opportunity for the criminal element to weasel in there. So they might start off good and then go bad. Things just happen, but we catch them, we hold them accountable, we get rid of them. Let's see here. Tian Luan it says, for streetcars, are there warning lights before they open the doors? In particular, when would you not be driving by the streetcar before they open the doors? So if the door is open while you're halfway through, just stop the car. Just if they're out there, they're out there. And then the but there should be, like, they're stopping. If they're stopping, if they're stopping at an intersection, you should anticipate the fact that they are going to be loading or unloading passengers. It just should, the assumption should be there. We should assume that. And it's safer that way. And then I'm already looking at this stuff. He says, I've seen lots of complaints about cops under investigation, but are suspended with pay. What are your thoughts about changing the suspended pay or pay cut while under investigation? So there's two different ways. Yeah, they're protected in that if it's like cops have allegations mounted all the time. So sometimes they're suspended because they have to be based on the allegation, but they're unfounded. Like, until we can figure out if this is really happening, you can't just screw with someone's life and just say he did that, and then they can't pay their bills, and then they're in harm's way for an allegation that may not be valid. So I guess, and I've never worked in this area of policing where I'm policing police officers, but it's my understanding that depending on where they are on the spectrum of the allegation, whether it's if they're caught red-handed and it's a certain type of thing, they can now suspend them without pay. There has been a change in law, so that you can be investigated and and be allowed to continue working. You can be suspended with pay pending, or you can be suspended without pay, and at that point, I think they can fire you. But I that's new, and I think that came in either as I left or shortly before. And I got to say, as a cop who does it right or did it right and wasn't worried about it, I didn't spend a lot of time worrying about it because it didn't really apply to me. If you're someone who's breaking rules and getting into trouble, I can see how that would be something you'd really read up on. But it's not something I'm really concerned about. And that's not to say, listen, I have friends that work in the police association, and they have to deal with members who are dealing with allegations and all sorts of issues, both founded and unfounded, and they have to know that inside and out. So they're not guilty of anything, but they have to know and understand it all. I'm a traffic guy, focused on traffic. I didn't worry about the ins and outs of what happens if I screw it up from that perspective. I'm just checking here. Santiago says, I have a question regarding police cadet. I'm 24, but due to my status in Canada, not yet decided. Sorry, my status in Canada is not yet decided. I'm currently waiting for my PR application answer. Can you still apply for cadet after I'm 25? So yes, you can apply. There's no limitation as to when you can become a police officer. So maybe this is a cadet program. I assumed cadet. When you're hired as a police officer, you are a cadet in training, right? So maybe they have a cadet program that's 19 and 20 to 25 that is specifically a cadet program. But you have to be a permanent resident to be qualified for it. So I would talk to them, and very few police agencies actually have a cadet program that's independent. So cadet program is where you join, you become a cadet, you're then you get an opportunity to work and you get paid as a cadet, but you're not yet a cadet in training to become a police officer. You're just a cadet. And Toronto Police had cadets before I was on the job, and they did parking enforcement, did all sorts of jobs. And there was a great opportunity to see if you were a good fit for us, and if we were a good fit for you, and so on. And some people screwed up and showed that they weren't a good fit, and they didn't go forward. But others continued on to be police officers. And I know many people who started as cadets, but they got rid of that program. People just got hired as police officers, started as a cadet in training, went to the college, and graduated as a police officer. So the big thing I can tell you is, if you're not a permanent resident, you're not a citizen, you are unable to be hired as a police officer. And I would imagine that would still apply to cadet. So there you go. Hope that answers your question, and good luck to you. Hopefully your PR application comes in while you're still eligible. What do we got here? See what Dashcam Vid says, not traffic related, but I need to know, do you prefer peated scotch or unpeated scotch? I don't drink. It's funny. I'll have the occasional glass of wine. I recently had a Crown and Diet, but I mean, it was social sipping. It was really not drinking, and it was one. But I don't think I like scotch. A friend of mine gave me a bottle of scotch at his wedding, and I don't think I've had any of it because It didn't. I don't. Not my thing. And I appreciate that some people love this stuff. I've never. But I appreciate the question. Uh, Serge says, when driving through construction zones and signs are covered, can you just drive the posted speed? So it depends on what jurisdiction you're in. Listen, most of the construction zone signs are not enforceable speed changes. If the speed, well, first of all, if the sign is covered, it's not in effect, right? If it's covered because they bagged them, then that street sign is not in effect. Whether as long as it was a legitimate thing, but you can't be held accountable for going the speed limit on the road if a speed change sign is being temporarily or permanently disabled. So that's the thing. I had to unpack that for a second. But the orange signs for speed aren't regulated signs. In the city of Toronto, we'll put white signs up, even if they're temporary. Okay. See what Dashcam says. Acts and statutes are legislative law, but still law. Yes, they are. I tend to go off when I see stuff that resembles, freedom of land stuff, and I think I got our friend John from the wrong side when he was first talking about not a law. Feel bad now. Sky's Adventure says, if you had charges withdrawn in turn, what is this? If you had if you had charges withdrawn for a peace bond, and that's all down and over, can you go to the United States? I would check with the border. I don't want, like, generally speaking, if you have pending charges or if you have convictions, they can deny you. But a peace bond may or may not. So I would be very transparent, because you don't want to go to the border and be denied, because a denial can be a 5-year denial and there's no way to challenge it. So I would call them and explain absolutely transparently, or call from a payphone. Do they have payphones anymore? Call from somebody else's phone and say that, here's a situation. I'm calling because I want to travel the States, and I had a situation. It was dealt with by way of peace bond, and I want to know if I'm admissible to the country. Thanks for, it's better to know rather than try. Because again, if it's a no, it's a no, and it's a big no. So yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how they take it seriously. They don't want, bad stuff in their country, and they consider criminal stuff pretty bad. Zlord145 sent 2 roses. Thank you very much for the gift, which goes to the Canadian Organization for Better Traffic Safety and Education. Gunter Gleben says, laws are threats made by the dominant socioeconomic ethnic group in a given nation. Okay. They're also just laws that are generally imposed by the people elected to represent the populace, but they're still valid and enforceable. So whether you like them or don't like them, they're the ones that are there. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. I get what Robbie's saying. Joshua Maloney, after you pass the G1, how long do you have to wait to go for your G2? This is a good question, and it applies to so many people. If you are getting your G1, you are required to have that G1 for 12 months before you're eligible to take your G2. However, if you take a qualified, an approved course by the MTO, that can be reduced down to 8 months. So you get a bonus for taking driver education, and I think it's a great incentive. Really, the answer is everyone should get driver training. But yeah, you get an accelerated path to G2, eligibility to take the G2 test if you have professional driver training. That's not being coached by mom or dad. That's taking an actual approved course. That's a great question. I thank you for asking it. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a former police officer who talks about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. So if you've got questions, I generally have answers. If we don't have answers, we look them up. We see what we can find out together. And hopefully we get you the answer you're looking for. Interesting. Paul Irwin says, just remember, with deer and moose, tell the insurance company that they hit you. Try and get the police officer to write them a ticket. Jonathan wants to know, how many calls do you guys individually respond to on a daily basis? I talk to some police officers and they say they go a week before getting a call because they're in a rural area, nothing's going on. But they'll have slow days, and then they'll have other days that they're go, go, go every day and all the time. In Toronto, in a major metropolitan area like Toronto, it's generally from the moment you get to work, there's a call waiting for you. If you finish that call, there's another call waiting for you. If you finish that call, there's another call waiting for you. And whether each call takes you 15 minutes or 15 hours, and I exaggerate with 15 hours, it's nonstop working. Very often, you're being canceled from your lunch to go to another call, so you're busy. If you find a rare moment that you're not busy, you're generally becoming proactive and doing traffic enforcement or catching up on paperwork. So either way, you're busy all day, and that's good because it really makes the shift go by quickly. If you were just driving around making sure that the light standards were all standing and that the cows are all fenced in, you might be bored. I'd be bored. I like city police life. I mean, if you don't want to work, don't work in a city, because some people like, I want a smooth ride. And I'll tell you, even police services that were once slow have picked up a lot. I think that everyone's getting busy. What we got here? Interesting. What is this one? This is key. Okay. Creating emergency situation. What are we talking about? This is Glam who's asking, is this ever true, creating emergency situation? Where I'm looking for context. Maybe it was part of a different question. What is your I don't see something got clipped, I think. So please let me know what you actually are asking. Glam. Paul Irwin says better purple amber, probably, which covers the eye attention safe. You know what? I think Paul Irwin's suggestion is good. Instead of purple white for funeral homes, it should be purple amber. And that would be absolutely, at least with the amber, perfectly legitimate. Yeah, because anyone can run ambers and for flashing ambers. And purple, again, not a regulated thing, but the white is a problem. Jonathan wants to know, am I allowed to tow my dad's commercial dump trailer with my personal Ram 3500 for personal reasons? Tow your dad's commercial dump trailer with my personal Ram for 30. You know what? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Can you tow that commercial trailer? First of all, what's your Ram rated at? Because if it's a commercial dump, it's going to have a significant weight, and your vehicle may not be rated for that. Like, you have a 20,000, I don't have my wallet with me, but on the back of your license, it tells you what you can lawfully tow with your personal G-class license. So if it's going to be under that weight rating and you're doing it for personal reasons and your vehicle is equipped to safely tow it, I want to suggest you talk to CVOR specialists, because I am not a commercial vehicle specialist, and I don't want to give you bad advice. And I don't even think this is something that we can look up online easily, because I think you're dancing on a line. Like, is your dad's vehicle that tows that dump trailer the same as your vehicle? Because there's nothing wrong with having a trailer, and even though you're commercial, like, has commercial markings on it? I wonder about insurance. You know what? I don't know. I think there's too much possible maybe to deal with here. I love these questions that give me the I don't knows, because then I want to look at them. And then there's other things like, because generally it's going to be under your insurance, right? You know what, Jonathan? Do me a favor. Send me the question. I'm going to take a note of it. I'm going to copy it. But just because I want to be able to respond to you, send me to askatrafficcop@gmail.com or voiceovercop@gmail.com. Both work. Just send me the question so I can respond to you. What law do you find the dumbest as a traffic cop? Dumb laws or dumb violations, like people who do dumb things? I don't really have a problem with any traffic laws. I don't think there's anything that's, I wish this wasn't a law, because boy, oh boy, there's stuff that covers every area. There may be less enforced stuff that we spend less time focusing. Yeah. But I don't think there's any laws that are wrong when it comes to traffic. I don't think there's something that should be legal that isn't legal. If you've got an example, I'll give you my opinion on it, but I can't think of anything. Okay. Oh, we're going political here. I'm not going politics. John and C with dash cams are having a political discussion. Dipsy Doodler says going to take a lot of work to earn back respect. From whom? From whom? Dipsy Doodler, I'm assuming, is talking about the police officers who have been alleged to have committed offenses. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. They will, if they're guilty, they're never going to get respect back. But why would their actions impact the entire police service made up of people who are doing the right thing for the right reasons? Why do they have to work to get your respect back because a couple of people broke the laws and have lost the trust of the entire police service and community? Those people did bad things. That's like saying someone sped, so we should hold all drivers accountable for their actions. We'll give everybody a ticket, and we'll make sure that they aren't allowed any leeway in any way, shape, or form until they earn back the respect because one person sped. No, that's ridiculous. A police officer who breaks the law is bad. You hold that police officer accountable, or those when there's a group of them. But you don't paint all with a brush that for the actions of few, because you have to remember that the police are the ones who caught them. It may not have been the same police, but it was still caught because police want to catch bad people. And when those bad people are wearing uniforms, they want to catch them even more. But yeah, explain to me what you were thinking when you were making that comment so I can understand from your perspective. Octavius wants to know, in a ride program, are you obliged to tell cops where you are going? So the only thing you have to provide is license, ownership, and insurance, and they're, going to have a conversation with you. You don't have to have that conversation. You don't have to provide information. I'm going where I'm going. I'm not telling you. You don't have to, but I'll tell you something really funny. It's really suspicious when you don't want to tell us something as simple as, I'm just going home, just going to go to my friend's house, going to the movies. Like, why would you not want to share? By not sharing, you are suspicious. And then, that's the spidey sense tingling happening. And yeah. So that's the story. But do you have to tell us where you're going? No. Jonathan, I think responded saying, I think that might be a more psychological question to see if you're impaired possible. Yeah, it's just trying to develop. Now, here's a funny thing. It used to be that we had to determine whether or not we had suspicion that you had alcohol in your blood. And the way to get suspicion was either smelling it or you admitting to it. Well, you don't need to have suspicion anymore to make a roadside sobriety test, or at least to make a roadside screening test demand. You just have to have a lawful stop. So we could stop and have everybody tested. Really, by having the conversation, you're eliminating, in many respects, many times, the officer, for their own reason, like in their own reasoning, excluding you from needing a test. We're having a normal conversation, but by having a guarded conversation, you are really telling the officer that this is a time to test someone. Yeah. R4D10 wants to know if a passenger needs the ID without a crime. So an ID, well, it depends on what we consider a crime. How about an offense? So if there's an alcohol, drug, or HTA offense related to that person, then yes, they have to ID. They don't have to provide an identification card, but they do need to tell us who they are. If they're not, being investigated for anything, then no, they don't. The driver is the one that's covered under the Highway Traffic Act, and it's them who needs to do it. So as John said, you don't have to identify. But let's say I saw them without a seatbelt, then they do have to identify. If there was open alcohol in the vehicle, then they do have to identify. So it depends. But just not as a factor of, I pulled over this car, so I'm going to ID everybody in the car. No, you don't have to do that. Zlord wants to know if they can DM me a question. Of course you can. RG wants to know what I think about First Amendment auditors. I have very mixed emotions. I watch the videos. I sometimes they're intriguing. Like I love it when they catch the bad cops, the cops who are completely, like, some of them who, especially in the States, like the ones who are, and I don't mean bad like they're dirty. I mean, but just like they don't know what they're talking about. Someone saying you're not allowed to record me, I'm a police officer. They're wrong. And I love the videos that lawyers put out saying you're wrong. So they do create conversation, which leads to education, which is what I do here, but in a different way. And I appreciate those auditors. I don't like the ones who do stupid stuff like they stand there with a camera. The cop comes by to see them and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And they just refuse to talk. There's auditing with silence, just wasting police resources. A police officer responding and investigating, if they're doing it nicely, tactfully, why not just be nice and tactful back? And if you say, "Listen, I'm just using my in the states their rights to their First Amendment rights to do what they're doing," then the police officer should be capable of saying, "Yeah, okay, cool, thanks," and walk away. And I love seeing those interactions because very often that's what happens. So it really depends on what we're seeing. I'm not a big fan of the ones who are chasing and harassing the police or walking around with fire, like in the states, walking around with firearms and then terrorizing their community. Just they might be legally permitted to do it, but they're freaking people out. So I have mixed emotions with it. If they're uncovering corruption, cool. If they're uncovering if they're just trying to get clicks because they're trying to get paid online, I don't like it. I don't like the sensationalization of anything just to make clicks. Nor do I like wasting police resources. So that's the thing. Vlad says, "Good morning. Can driver be charged for being disrespectful or hateful to the officer?" Um, Disrespectful or hateful. So no, you don't have to be respectful. It doesn't help you in your situation when dealing with a police officer. Obviously, respectful is always better. Hateful, like what? Like I hate police officers, so I'm going to treat you with disrespect. What does it mean? Like there was a guy I saw a video recently where a guy in Quebec was being ridiculous to the police officer. Um, but I think that officer handled herself really, really well. And that person's now being identified, and I think it's ridiculous. But was there a charge with what he said? I don't think he, uh, other than identifying himself as an idiot. I don't think there was much more there. I don't know. Like I would have possibly thought that person was under the influence of drugs or alcohol because why does someone act that way? It was gross. And John, quite what do you call it here? Oh, auditors. Yes, we're not. Yeah, they're just auditors. They're not First Amendment auditors. John, you're quite right. Skipper says, "Can you turn left on a red light if the road is a one-way going left?" In Ontario and in most provinces other than Quebec, you can make a left turn at a red light only if you're on a one-way street turning onto another one-way street. So that's a thing. But it's amazing how many people didn't know that. And I did a video on that, which did very, very well on Instagram. Um, like ridiculously. It was like 700,000 views, I think. But anyway, it's a legit thing, but it's only one way to one way, not two way to one way. I think it's BC. There's a couple of provinces that are kind of loosey goosey about it. It's not specifically outlined. You can make it on a left onto a one way from a two way. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm glad it's not the law here. Thanks for the follow, whoever you are. I don't see it. It popped up, but I don't know who did that. I just saw a little blink and it showed up on screen. Maybe you saw who it was, but I didn't see who it was. Okay. Oh, okay. See what Dashcam was talking about, Pete. I'm like, Pete? He's talking about booze. Okay. He's talking about Scotch specifically. Tyrannit, Tyrannitup. Maybe I pronounced that right. Maybe I did not. They say speed limits should be removed. And Joshua quite rightfully responded, no, because no, they shouldn't. Speed limits are very important. Many people believe that speed limits are old and dated and cars are better. So, we should not have speed limits or we should raise them. But no, speed limits are there for a very good reason. And in many respects, many areas, we're making them lower. We're slowing people down because people are doing dumb stuff on the road. And yeah, no, speed kills. We know this. Now, people argue, well, speeding doesn't kill. It's the abrupt stop when that's the point. People screw up. It removes the opportunity to make evasive actions. You lower response time or the opportunity before you've passed, moving on to the next thing. And yeah, crashes happen. We know that traveling faster increases the odds of collision. And just because you haven't been in one doesn't mean that you are um, a better driver. It doesn't mean that you are skilled. In fact, you've asked the average person, they all think they're great. But no, it would be horrible. Horrible if we went faster. Look at the average driver now with the speed limits we have. Okay. John Lorenz, Lex, I don't know how to pronounce your username with different characters in there. Hey, Sean, would OPP or any police officer pull you over for going 10 to 15 over on the highway? I couldn't tell you what they would or wouldn't do. I think that the average police officer on a 400 series highway would be not looking for a 10 to 15 kilometer over violator. That's not to say they wouldn't or couldn't, because it's absolutely against the law. But I think they tend to be looking for higher number of violators. There's so many people doing 30, 40, and 50 over that why would they waste their time with doing 10 to 15 over? That's not to say you should be speeding. You shouldn't be speeding. And I did a drive to Hamilton last night, and I was doing the speed limit, and people were high beaming me and passing me, and I was in the right lane, and they were driving like idiots around me. And it's just the way it is now. Everyone sort of seems to think that the speed limit is optional or a starting point, not it's a minimum, not a maximum. But it is a maximum. So I do the speed limit. Now, when you're talking about 10 to 15 over on a residential or on a surface route, 60, I would constantly pull people over and charge them for 15 over on a city road. In fact, I might do them for 10 if they're on a small residential road, because there's no reason to speed at all. There's no excuse for it. It's just not lawful. But I appreciate the question. John says, Sean, is the orange signs in construction zones not enforced? They're not. Those are not lawful. Like they're not enforceable. So it's not even that they're not enforced, that you can't enforce them. They're not a regulated sign. They're a suggested cautionary sign because there's people working. Now, could you be stopped and cautioned because of it? Possibly, maybe. Could you? But it's not something that. And frankly, I'm not a highway person. Like I was a police officer in Toronto, and in Toronto we dealt with the Don Valley Parkway and the QEW, which is now, I believe, being transferred to the OPP for enforcement. I think that was at least a talk. I don't know if it's actually taken place, the handover, but that was what the talk was at the time. And it's the OPP that would be really focusing on that kind of enforcement. But to the best of my knowledge, it's entirely unenforceable. That doesn't mean you shouldn't slow down. It just means that I don't think they can enforce it. Okay. Laji wants to know how I feel about Highway 1117 in Ontario. I don't know what to tell you about that. What is there to feel about it? Tell me more. There's a question about how accurate is the radar when a police car is moving. Well, there's moving radar, which is absolutely accurate because it calculates the speed of the vehicle and calculates the speed of the measured vehicle, and it does math, and it gets a accurate number as to the speed of the vehicle that's being measured. Dipsy Doodler says, Sean always says speeding is speeding. Yeah, it's true. There's no, it's the same charge, right? So speeding is speeding whether it's 1 kilometer or more above until it becomes stunt driving. But it's still speeding, and I would lay both charges just to be fully transparent. I wouldn't give a break. But the deal is that speeding is the same charge, and the only difference between the number is to calculate the fine, because it's one of those things that's based on the amount of kilometers over the posted speed limit. Michael Munoz says, no plates on highway. I get passed by cops all the time and haven't been pulled over. You have no license plates on your vehicle and police officers haven't noticed? That's what you're saying? Well, I don't know if that's something you should be bragging about. That's not good. No plates is obviously no plates on, and the highway, by the way, is any road in the province of Ontario. So listen, I've pulled over tons of vehicles for no plates. And oddly enough, they've been able to provide a slip of paper that says we're exporting the vehicle out of the province, and here's the thing, and I just registered it, and it's happened. It does happen. But driving with no plates is a reason to pull someone over instantly. It stands out. So I'm shocked that you've never been pulled over. But why don't you have plates? Please tell me you have plates and you have insurance and you're not doing dumb stuff on the road, because your name is here. Like you're advertising this. Someone could see it. You don't want to be admitting stuff here. Even though I can't do anything about it, somebody could be watching and they could. Maybe, possibly, maybe not. Okay. Ba-ba-bum. Yes, John says, "Why don't you have plates?" Ironically, I see this often too. Really, you see it too? I don't see it. And then Jonathan says, "No plates at all." This is really causing people. This is disrupting. Okay. Uh, boom, boom, boom. John, I don't get that. Okay. Um, let's see here. In 2000, I turned 16. I got my G1 8 months later and got my G2 while still 16. Right on. Let's see what dash cams. See what Dashcam says. If I was an officer, I would be really bad for traffic enforcement because I might not do it at all. Really? See, I think it's a great thing to do. And Jonathan says, you do dash cam vids. I think you'd see issues with driving clearly. Interesting. Big Len 70 says, good morning, Sean from Alberta, Canada. What's going on, Alberta? Good to have you on. If you're watching, by the way, and I appreciate those who are here and know what the show is all about. They know what the show is all about. For anyone who's watching and has never seen the show, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a former police officer. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. And if you got questions, drop them in the comments. I'm here till at least 11. We've been going since 9:15, and the goal is to answer traffic and police questions because you deserve to know stuff before you do stuff, so you don't get charged with stuff that, well, you don't really want to be charged for. And unfortunately, the law, fortunately or unfortunately, you're expected to know the law, regardless of whether or not you know the law. You're driving; you ought to have known, so you'll be handled and treated that way. Let's see here. RJ says, "How do you deal with those auditors wanting to audio and record everything the police does?" So if I'm engaged or encountering or dealing with someone who is recording, it's no big deal. We have cameras, you have cameras. It's just another angle of the truth, as long as it's all legit. Like, we've seen edited videos afterwards where the police video looks a lot different because they have an uncut version and the individual spins it with a cut version. But yeah, I have no problem with people recording. I have a problem with people interfering with police. That I have a problem with. Okay. Does the passenger of a commercial motor vehicle need to identify not a CO driver, but simply a passenger? I don't think there's anything specifically about commercial drivers. I'm not aware of anything, and that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm not aware of anything other than if they are required because of something they're being investigated for, similar to that of a seatbelt or alcohol or anything like that. I don't think there's anything that obligates them to report or to ID. That's not to say there isn't. I'm just not aware of anything. Oh, so here's a question. Is going 20 over speed limit in the most left lane in a highway okay? It's doing 20 over the speed limit, which in your question admits to speeding, which means it's not okay. It's illegal. You're not allowed to speed in any lane. Miss Blah Blah is weird. John says, has 110-kilometer speed limits led to more deaths? Uh, I couldn't say. Listen, I have to tell you, I don't, if they change the law and the speed limit becomes 110 everywhere, or 120 everywhere, and 130 everywhere, that's what the law says. My issue is breaking the law. Don't break the law. Now, I don't agree with you raising the speed limits, but and if I was asked by government officials if they should, I would tell them they shouldn't. But if they've determined that 110 is safe, then it's safe according to them. And then the people who are doing 130, 140 just need to be strictly enforced. I couldn't tell you if 110 has changed anything. I've not heard anything to suggest that it has. They said that they increased the speed limit in that area because it was safe in those areas. It's not across the board. It's just in the areas. And I don't track, I have not been tracking anything related to that other than don't speed. If the speed limit's 110, that's the maximum, not the minimum. Let's see here. Speed limits are set by feels, not science on the highway. Josh, you're incorrect, but I appreciate your opinion because that's what you provided, an opinion. Yeah, speed limits are set by governments, and they should be abided by. You should follow the law, or you should move somewhere where you find laws you like. But don't just make your own stuff up, or take it like a big boy or girl when you get charged and found guilty for your actions. Like, you want to speed, fill your boots. when you get caught or you hurt somebody, yourself or another, just take responsibility. You chose it, live with it. But that's not what happens, right? People break the law and then cry and go get a defense attorney or someone to defend them in court for defending them from being held accountable for the thing that they chose to do. No one made you speed; you chose to speed. If you hurt someone and you become liable for a $2 million, case against you, you just take it out of your savings because you chose to do it. Pay your bill, pay the fines, and take care of the people that you hurt for however long that needs to be. But everyone's got a big bold opinion about speeding, but when things go wrong, they become wimps and then hide and try and get out of responsibility. So if you're going to choose to break the law, then you should accept when the full weight of the law smacks you upside your head. You shouldn't waste the court's time trying to weasel out of your insurance increase because you should own it, right? Speeding is not a big deal. So when the insurance company tells you they want to double your insurance rate, you should say, yes, sir, can I have another? Because you chose it. Dum-dums, can't help it. When did Bert Kreischer become a cop? It's funny. Let's see here. John says, thanks a million for answering everyone's questions. Super cool of you to do it. My pleasure. What is this? Can you get an accurate reading while passing in the opposite direction? Yes. If you're talking about moving radar, yes, you can get an accurate rating whether the traffic is opposing or traveling in the same direction. We have antennas in the front and the back, so we can get them coming or going in either direction. What do we got here? What's your thoughts on dirty police officers that got arrested? Obviously, nobody likes dirty police officers or dirty lawyers or dirty doctors or dirty clergy. We find them, we hold them accountable, and then we make an example out of them. In fact, I would guess that they will get more than what an average human would if they're found guilty. That's what happens. And woo 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 and woo. Oh, it's and woo. Lol. I think that's their username. Are you related to Ben? No. I'm 6'5". He is not. He has great hair. I do not. He has a high voice. I do not. So it's not at all a thing. Although somebody said he's a Canadian. So no, what's Canadian got to do with it? I was just in the States for a family function. I have an American family. It's just a matter of I don't think we're related. Okay. Calvin Picard says, any way to set up meetings, either justice of the peace in principal offense. What? You want to, I'm not following what you're asking with. You want to set up a meeting with justice of the peace in provincial offenses court. Usually that's called a trial. What kind of meeting do you want to set up? Karan Dhaliwal says, can I be a cop after I got my license suspended for speeding, stunt driving, but later on was tossed? You cannot have more than 6 demerit points active on your license when you're applying, but if you have stunt driving charges and there was allegations, it's going to come up in your background check and you're going to have to answer to it, tossed or otherwise. Because generally speaking, yes, a conviction is what's important for the ministry, but the allegations and the evidence that was captured, despite what happened in court, I'm going to say might not go well for you. And at very least, you need to be very honest and transparent about the entire thing. Because if you say, no, I never had any issues, and then they find them, then you're lying. So deal with it. Okay. If speed limit is 100, why can you get a ticket for doing 100 in the left lane? Well, you can't get a ticket for doing 100 in the left lane. You can get a ticket for being the slowest moving vehicle and not moving over for the right. Now, first of all, I got to say that I'm not in agreement with it. I don't think that you should be charged for being the person in the left lane that's doing the speed limit, because the speed limit in every lane is 100 or 110, depending on the highway you're in. But I do understand why police want to focus on people who are camping in the left lane. Again, I don't agree with it. I would always charge the speeder, because I think the speeder is the one making the roads unsafe. They're breaking the law. You're not. However, many police agencies will charge the person for doing the speed limit in the left lane, which I think is ridiculous. But the theory behind it is somewhat acceptable in the framing that we know that the dum-dums who are speeding are going to now try and pass you aggressively on your right to get around you because they're going to speed, right? Doesn't matter what you're there or not. And now you're just creating a situation where they have to get out of the lane they're in and pass you on the right when you have no reason to be in the left lane because you're not actively overtaking. So it's not a speeding lane. It's not the zoom zoom lane. It is the passing lane according to culture. Is it really? It's meant for passing. Is it called the passing lane? It's just another lane. Slower moving traffic needs to stay to the right. Slower could be below the speed limit, could be the speed limit based on the behavior and decisions of other drivers, whether they're breaking the law or not. Should you become the person who says, I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to slow traffic down and stay in the left lane? No, that's not your job. Leave it to police to slow people down. Stay to the right and don't become a speed bump or an issue for other drivers because it's just going to up the ante and make other people do dumb stuff. So that's my take on it. Let's see here. Funniest of dudes says, are you pulling people over for actual infractions or something minor like expired plates? Expired plates means they're not allowed to be on the road. So I would pull people over for expired plates. Yes. Why are they expired? If you can't afford to pay your bills, like your fines, which is why you can't renew your plates for free, how ridiculous is that? I pulled people over for expired plates. They had $20,000 in unpaid fines. They're not doing it right. Are they insured? Do you have insurance if you have expired plates? You're not legally allowed on the road. Do you have a license if you have expired plates and unpaid fines? There's a reason to investigate people who don't do the right thing. And usually when you just, pick back at the scab, you see underneath is festering stuff. So you pull them over for expired plates. You find out they have no license. They have no insurance. They're carrying drugs and alcohol in the car. They have warrants. They have firearms. Like, it's called an investigation for a reason. You pull people over for a reason, and then you see what else is wrong. Now, maybe it was just an expired plate. They forgot about it. Oops, they made a mistake. You give them a warning. You document it, and then they go on. Maybe it deserves a charge. Officer discretion applies. But you don't just ignore it and go, it's just a plate. What could possibly go wrong? What could they be doing? No. Maybe that person's a drug dealer. Maybe they're a wanted person. Maybe that's a stolen car. Maybe. You got to look. Yeah, it's work. We do work. We do hard things. Landlocked Sailor says speed limit is code, not law. Bullshit. It's law. Yes, John says, don't be in the left lane, please. It's dangerous for you and everyone else. I agree that it can be dangerous. I just don't agree that it's the right thing. Increase victimless crimes. That's one-eyed man-child. Well, the man-child part is accurate. Define entrapment because a lot of people seem to not understand the meaning. Oh, this is good. People think that speed traps is entrapment. No. Catching you doing dumb stuff you chose to do is catching you doing dumb stuff you chose to do, whether we're hiding in the bushes or being out in the open. That's not entrapment. Entrapment is inducing you to do something that you would not have normally done unless we intervened. So if I go to a bar as an undercover officer and say, hey, have you ever thought about doing some crime? And you say, no. I said, but I've got this great crime you could do. And if you just do this crime, you can make some lot of money. And you say, I don't really want to do it. Oh, but look, if you do this crime, big money. And then you do it because I talked about it. I talked you into doing it. And then I gave you all the plans to do it. And then you go and actually do it. Is that entrapment? Yes, that's entrapment. I'm basically writing the script for you to do it. And then you just take the bait and do it. And then that's entrapment. Oh, that's funny. What a dum-dum. Okay. Mandate the towing industry. It is already. That's Cooper's that it's already mandated. Could they do more? Maybe. But it's in Toronto, especially. Toronto was really locked down until the provincial government screwed it all up. What's this? If I'm in a not at fault collision and the officer asks for a breath test, do I need to provide one? Yes, you do. If you are read a breath demand, you are required by law to comply. If you don't, you'll be charged criminally for refuse, which is much easier to get a conviction on than an actual regular over or 80 over. They change the wording and I still say it the old way. But yeah, if you are driver of motor vehicle and you are read a demand because they have suspicion or under the current law, no suspicion of alcohol in your system, you're still obligated to provide said breath screening test. Could they also make a demand based on their suspicion to do a sobriety test roadside where you walk heel to toe, heel? Yeah, you do, because if they make the demand, uh, you're required to do it, and if you don't do it, like I said with the other one, you still get charged. Okay, what is this? Paul Irwin says clear or tinted plate make marker covers. Either way, is that an HTA violation? Clear or tinted plate slash marker. Okay, plate or marker. Marker is a U.S. term for plate. Either way, is that an HTA violation if it's legible? So technically, you can't have anything covering it. If it's legible to me in my eyes, does it mean it's legible to a camera that's doing enforcement? It could be polarized. It could create glare. It could obscure one's toll system. Is it legal? No, you can't put anything that covers the plate. It's not permitted. Now, the thing is, it's obscuring the plate. You can't put anything. Doesn't matter if it's clear, tinted, bubbled, smooth. You can't. And people can argue that it is or it isn't, but then you can go and argue that in court. Let's see here. John says, if a cop asks for breath if a cop asks for breath, yes, you always must do it, always, unless you want a criminal record. Excellent answer, John. Wama Wiggle. Wama Wiggle? Wama Wiggle. Okay, I have an e-bike motorcycle style. If I go over 32 kilometers on the road, what would I get charged with? So here's a funny thing. If you have an e-bike capable of going over 32 kilometers an hour, it is not an e-bike. It is a motorcycle. All e-bikes are effectively motorcycles. However, if they comply with the regulation, they are treated as bicycles. How do I mean that? I mean that if you have a bike that is a motor vehicle, which is anything that runs on anything other than muscular power, it's a motorcycle. But if it has no more than 500 watts of power, is not capable of going more than 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface unassisted, and if it does not have, or if it has pedals, then it gets the benefit of being a bicycle. And that's it. But if you have a switch that you can throw and it goes 40 kilometers an hour, that means it's capable of more than 32 kilometers an hour. And then it is a motorcycle again. It loses that magical provision of law, that benefit. It doesn't matter if it looks like a motorcycle otherwise. The Suron can do like 60. It's a motorcycle, not an e-bike. What's the difference between a Harley Davidson electric motorcycle, and a Suron? They're both capable of being powered. And here's one thing: if you take the pedals off your bike, it's now a motorcycle again. Like so many of these manufacturers put the pedal systems in place just to circumvent law, to make it appear as though it is not a motorcycle. So it's a major problem. It's a major problem because people are driving without insurance. Okay, so you wanted to know what the consequences were. So let's say your bike goes more than 32, as you've described it, whether the motor is 500 watts or 1,000 watts, but it's capable of going more than 32. We're not even looking at any of the other equipment. Drive motor vehicle that's not registered. Drive no license. Drive motor vehicle no insurance. That's $5,000 to $25,000 and up to 6 months in jail. What else? Drive unsafe motor vehicle on the road. The list goes on. I would lay every single charge that I could find, because there's no excuse for you to drive a motor vehicle that is not being safetied, that is not being properly tested and proven safe by a mechanic to be on the road, that it doesn't have insurance like everybody else on the road. It's not a bicycle. And why? Anyway, the people who buy the ones that look like ninjas, like they look like sport bikes, and then claim e-bike, it's ridiculous. And those bikes don't have 500 watt motors. They may put a sticker on them that say 500 watts, but they are way more powerful. Those are heavy motorcycles. But anyway, I digress. They're simply a joke. I don't know why they're being permitted to be sold. I think that OMVIC should take over the responsibility of regulating those dealers, which are currently unregulated. You can import these motorcycles and selling them as e-bikes because they're being imported as e-bikes, and they're not. It's a farce. Okay. Nobody, that's the username. Nobody. Whereabouts in Canada are you from? Is there a super different regulations between provinces? I'm in Ontario, and that's where I worked as a police officer. And there are different regulations, equipment specifically regulations throughout the provinces. Driving laws are generally the same across North America. There are some things that are slightly different, but where things really differ is the consequences and how strictly enforcing certain things are. Like simple things like we have two license plates in Ontario. You have to display two, but there are provinces where they only display one, and we have exemptions for those people who, if they drive into the province to visit. But there are provinces that say you can't put anything, like you can't modify your vehicle at all. I don't understand that. That seems a little harsh. As long as it's safe, it should be okay. But they allege, like in Alberta, apparently you can't modify anything. I don't know. That's what they do. So there's some things that I think are a little odd. I like Ontario law. I'd like to see even more strictly outlined laws. I'd like us to do what Quebec does, which is have maximums and posted minimums for our highways. Again, the broad strokes are the same, and there's just mostly differences in equipment and regulations, and some things that may be interpreted differently. But I don't think there's sweeping differences. Otherwise, we'd need special licenses to travel. Um, okay. Nobody says I have a motorcycle and I use day plates for saving money. Can I ride a block to the insurance place? What is it? What are day plates? I'm not familiar with this. Nobody. I've never heard of a day plate. And what is it? What is it? Where are you? What is a day plate? I got to look it up because I've never, ever heard of that. Let's see what it says. A day plate in Ontario refers to a temporary license plate and permit used for short-term vehicle. I've never heard of that term. I know what a temporary plate is. I've never heard of it called a day plate because I guess it's good for 10 days. Cool. I learned a new slang. I'm assuming it's a slang. I don't think that's a legit term. You can't continuously get day plates. You can't. You can't get temporary plates. You can't extend them forever, and you shouldn't be able to. But no, you can't ride a block without insurance. You cannot ride you cannot ride anywhere on the road without insurance. That is making you eligible for the fine folks of the police service delay charges under the compulsory Automobile Insurance Act, and that is $5,000 to $25,000 and up to 6 months in jail. John says $20,000 in fines is likely for 07 bill, which isn't fair since it only applies to Ontario. I don't have bill. Yeah, listen, I'm sore about the fact that we don't own the 407, but I spent $45 on the 407 last night, and it's linked to my credit card, and it'll get paid. If you are continuously using the 407 and not paying for it, you're stealing. If you're doing it with no intention to pay, you're stealing. If you're using it to, don't use it if you don't want to pay for it. Or if you have, at that point, you're just stealing. And so whether or not it's fair, you're using it, pay for it. I don't know how to excuse it. What's fair? Okay. See what Dashcam says. My local OPP, when I drive late at night for Dashcam footage, pull me over to see my dogs. That's funny. What do we got here? Fat Jesus says, can I ask you, are you a cop or a lawyer? I don't know. I love your live so far. Just want to know. Thanks. Love you. I'm a former police officer, says so straight on the screen. Sean Shapiro, former police officer at VoiceOver Cop is the channel. I am not a lawyer, although I've thought about becoming one. I work with a lawyer, and I have lawyers who sponsor. I don't work at Diamond, by the way. A lot of people think I work at Diamond and Diamond. I don't. They are sponsors of the show. I have been involved with many things, and a lot of it has to do with social media consulting. I don't work at a law firm per se, but I do help social media with some of them. Okay, what do we got here? Thanks, Spence. Spence 905 answered the question. Does TPS, the answer to the question about that I'm a retired cop. Jonathan says, does TPS do ride-alongs? TPS used to do a lot more. I think now you need to have a reason other than just I want to go on a ride along. I don't think they take the average citizen on a ride along. But if you're interested in law enforcement as a career, if you can certainly inquire. So it's possible, and then they have to do some background checks and things before they let you come out with them. Puck, we'll call you Puck. Says in Nova Scotia, some plates have the numbers completely rusted off. If you have a plate that is peeled, like in Ontario, we have plates that peeled, they're defective. If you are driving with one of those, then you are eligible for charges, and that's no good. So get them. It's a $110 charge if your plate's not legible. If it's not maintained properly, it's a $59 charge to replace that plate. You're better off paying $59 than $110 and getting a charge because nobody likes a charge. Oh, thank you very much from Akela, who says we're coming up on 11. Don't forget the jokes. Hang on a second. Speaking of which, I need to upload the jokes. We'll take a second. I'm not in a rush. We're gonna do everything. Where did the jokes go? Oh, there's the jokes. We're going to forward this to the computer. Stand by. Why is that not showing up? I'm having a weird. Oh, there it is. MacBook. It is right there. Are we transferring? Is data being transferred? It is. It's receiving the video. Okay. I wonder if this is going to screw things up. Probably going to screw things up. Let's see what happens. Stand by. All right. We're going to go into here. We're going to go storage. We're going to upload a video. And it's going to be downloads. That's the one. Okay, we're uploading the video, and I'll continue to chat while that does its thing. Okay, put this over here. Boom, boom, boom. Excellent. We're processing the video. Thank you for the reminder there, Akela. Akela sent me a video with jokes. And if you've got dad jokes that you want to share, please do. I will read them at the end of the show, which is coming up soon. Yeah. We're doing this for an hour and 46 minutes, which means we're at the 11 o'clock mark, but we'll go for a full 2 hours and just go for 15 more minutes. Oh, wait, do I have to leave? I have to leave. Terrible. Okay. Let me try and scroll through and not miss anything. I don't want to miss anything. I heard of Ontario vehicles being pulled over in California for being modified. California does some weird stuff, and I think it's a lack of education. No, not trying to knock the California coppers. Oh, no, listen, if you have vehicles that are modified in such a way that they're illegal to be used in California, it's legit. You can't drive with an unsafe motor vehicle based on their standards. However, I've been seeing videos where people in California are driving cars showing an Ontario license or a Canadian license, being told that you can't drive in California without a Californian license. That's not true. You absolutely can drive in California with an Ontario license as long as you are visiting and not living there. Different situation. Jonathan said, I was asked before if a 3-inch lift kit is legal. If it's done properly, it's legal. 3 inches isn't a big lift. Body lift kits, not a big deal. I think that's the maximum before you start getting into problems, actually. Is a paper tag you can use for day or limited time in BC. You can get full insurance from ICBC. Already interesting. So what I don't understand. So you're in BC. Okay. So tell me what a paper tag. So you're asking me a question if you can drive with full insurance on a paper tag. Then what was the reason for asking if you can drive one block? I don't get it. Wama Wiggle says, can I get into policing if I had a discharge in the courts a few years ago? It's possible. You need to talk to a recruiter. But again, be full disclosure. You got to tell them everything, because if they find it, it'll exclude you if you weren't honest. I got a ticket for no fenders on my 1932 Ford Hot Rod. Went to court and beat it, of course, because it probably had no requirements for fenders in 1932. So yeah, grandfathered vehicles aren't an issue. If it had no fenders back then, if there was no law requiring fenders, then you wouldn't need fenders now. Just like if you have a vehicle that has no seatbelts, you're grandfathered and you don't need seatbelts. And didn't let me continue my question at asking if I could push my bike to. But I don't get it. Why would you have to take your vehicle to the insurance place? Do they inspect your vehicle? Is that what it's for? So I don't get it. I don't understand the insurance question, paper tag question, the way you proposed it. They're strict with no tickets, but it never hurts to apply. They're strict with no more than 6 demerit points, but if you're saying like discharge from courts, maybe you're talking about criminal stuff, and again, you need to disclose it. Yes, open wheel vehicles absolutely exist. Shanaz says, I want to see you. You have an office. I don't have an office that's publicly available, but why do you need to see me? I do public appearances now and again, like the auto show and things like that. But generally speaking, I don't take walk-ins. So, Juju 911 says, in Quebec on a 3-lane highway, if there's a truck in the middle lane, I'm allowed to pass on the right. Am I allowed to pass on the right? So I can't speak to this in Quebec, but there's no law in Ontario in a 3-lane situation. A 3-lane highway. Are you talking about 3 lanes in each direction, in one direction? So a highway like Highway 401, where there's multiple lanes in a single direction, then you could pass in either side, as long as it can be done safely. If you're talking about a 3-lane road where there's only like one is north, one is south, and there's a middle lane for turning, that's a different situation. Then you wouldn't want to be able, you wouldn't be, well, you're saying middle lane. It must be, you're talking a multi-lane single direction. So in Ontario, it wouldn't be an issue. And I don't think it's an issue in Quebec either. H4ZE says on underglow, question mark, is it legal? It's not specifically illegal. There's no law for underglow. However, the deal is that if it's projecting light into the back and it's not of a regulated color for the back, then it could be illegal. It would be illegal. So the deal is that you need to, what do you need to do? You need to ensure that it's installed in such a way that the light is not being projected outward and only straight down. If it's reflected off the ground, it's not a big deal. If it's reflected to or projected to the sides, it could be a big deal. And then it would be improper headlights or taillights or so on. Let's see here. Beep. Oh, Jonathan failed the beep test at level 5. By the way, excuse me. If you're trying to get the beep test under your belt, 20-meter piece of rope, mark it at the right place, take it to a tennis court or what have you. Run it with the beep in your ear. When you burn out, stop running, recover for 30 seconds to a minute, and jump back in. Don't stop your recording. Jump back in at the speed that you need to continue at. Where people fail is they stop, rewind, and start again. Rewind, who rewinds? But what they do is they stop and they start at 0, and then they never get past what they need to get past. So if you want to get more than 5, jump back in at 6 or 5.5 and keep going and burn out again, and then stop again and get and maybe do a couple of sprints at 7, even though you can't maintain it all the way. And then the next time, hopefully you'll stay a little longer and a little longer and so on. Nicholas Rizzi has a couple of dad jokes. Cool. And we're going to wrap up in a second. And practicing after runs, that doesn't help either. If you're already burnt out, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Okay. Let me do a quick switch here. How do I do this? So let's see. This is going to screw things up, I think. Media. Let's see if this screws it up for everybody. Yeah, it does. Boom, boom, boom. Video. And where is the video? I just uploaded it. Look, I have to reload the screen. Hang on a second. It's going to be okay. Okay. There we go. Let's
Greetings and salutations.
We'll come back to that in 1 second. But that's the joke. Greetings and salutations from the one, the only Aquila Draconix, who is currently in Maddock. But we are going to first read. What do you think of civilian radar detectors? Oh, radar detectors, they're illegal. I don't think they should exist. And Paul Irwin says incandescent headlight replacements that are LEDs, where do the regulations stand? If they are just because you change them to LED, it's not necessarily a problem. If they're not directed properly, if they're causing issues, then it's a problem, or can be a problem. Misdirected is the biggest problem. Joshua says, "How you doing?" I'm doing well, thanks. Okay, let's get the dad jokes out of the way. Where are they? None of them are on TikTok, so we'll go over to the fine folks who are on other platforms like Nicholas Rizzi. Where is my Where's my mouse? On the other screen? Can't find my mouse. Here we are. I have a lot of real estate here screen-wise. All right. Dad jokes. Nicholas wants me to yell in my most angry voice, speeding is speeding. Trust me, you'll see it later. 1 second. He clips my videos and makes interesting things. So he wants me to say speeding is speeding, and he's going to clip this, and I know it's going to be. That's not my most angry voice, but it's the best he's going to get from me. Okay, let's see. Okay. I have expired plates, probably can't afford drugs and alcohol, so you're good. Okay, that's Nicholas Rizzi who's saying that. In discussing entrapment, he says, "Are you offering me a job, a crime job? How much? I've been watching a long time. I've been watching a lot of Breaking Bad. I have the perfect drug mule face." Oh, he's funny. He's actually an accountant and a stand-up comedian. So it's kind of funny. Oh no. Oh, this is both good and bad because it's a Whitney Houston thing. What is Whitney Houston's favorite coordination? Hand-eye. Yeah. It's terrible. But if you know the joke, if you know the song, it'll be funny. Yeah, hand-eye. Hand-eye. Yeah, okay. I'm not supposed to sing. What do we got here? We got dad joke number 2. Did you know in Hawaii it's against the law to laugh out loud? You can only do aloha. Actually, I like that. That's pretty good. Okay. What do you think here? What do we got? Oh, yeah, we got the video. We can now play the video.
Greetings and salutations. This is Akela Jaconis and Floyd. Out taking a walk in the busy streets of Madoc. This is just around the block. I don't have to give you a weather report. You can see that it's raining. It's wet out here. Anyway, I do have jokes right here. And get the jokes out. I don't even know if this is actually recording right now. Oh yeah, it is good. So, first up we've got, how do you stop rhinoceros from charging? You take away his credit card.
That's good. I like that.
I had a job interview. I filled my glass of water until it overflowed. Nervous? Asked the interviewer. No, I responded. I always give 110%.
I like that too.
Next. What is a soldier's least favorite day of the year? March 4th.
I get that one.
What is it called when you apologize by using dots and dashes? Remorse code. And that's our jokes. Stay safe, and remember, don't have a good day, have a great day, because that's your...
Oh, I cut him off too soon, but that's, I really appreciate those. What do we got? We got here, what generation is Forrest Gump? Answer, wait for it. Gen A. I'm probably not saying that right, but it's just not hitting. That's a generation. Gen A. I guess it's Gen A. Gen A. Gen A? Yeah, I guess it's Gen A. I got to watch Forrest Gump now. That's a fantastic movie that I probably haven't seen in 20 years. I don't know, 15, 20 years. Gen A. Okay. As I continue to say it in my head, it's getting funnier. But yes, I got to watch it. Okay. For all who don't know what that movie is, you're missing out. I got to go. My name is Sean Shapiro, former police officer, signing off. Drive safe, drive sober. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow. I feel real bad having missed out on the earlier of the week. So we'll do another one. And I'll do it maybe even same time. Trying the 9 a.m. kind of thing. And what does chocolate identify as? Hershey. What does chocolate identify as? Hershey. Hershey. I don't know if I get that one either. I appreciate Paul Irwin's jokes because they're throwing me for curves. Yeah. Hershey. Ha! It's yeah. Her, she. I get it now. All right. Be well. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.